Good evening, viewers. Welcome to another Tea Time Talks. This is episode 13, and I'm really honored to have a special guest with me today. As a food writer and blogger, I meet so many chefs, but some chefs leave an impact on you in just one meeting. My guest today is one such person, Chef Parvinder Bali, corporate chef, learning and development, Oberoi Hotels and Resorts. Welcome, Chef.
Thank you.
It's so nice
Thank you
to
so
have
much.
you.
Thank
Let
you.
me give an
Pleasure is all
introduction
mine.
to our guest. Chef Bali has over 30 years of rich experience across hotels. He's an alumni of IHM Kolkata and later joined the famed OCLD, Oberoi Center of Learning and Development. He graduated with a gold medal and started his career as a pastry chef at the Oberoi, New Delhi. He worked under numerous expat chefs to gain knowledge and skills, which made him bag the gold medal at the Oberoi Culinary Olympics held in 1996. He moved on to Kolkata in 98 and was the first pastry chef of Oberoi Hotels and Resorts. Chef Bali was sent to Australia to train with the best chef in 2001. He moved to ITC Hotels for 2 years, where he was the opening chef of ITC Shonar, where he worked until 2004. And then he traveled a lot around the world to expand his food knowledge. He is also associated with culinary schools such as Cordon Bleu in London, Culinary Institute of America in New York, where he visits as an external faculty. So, wow, Chef, what an illustrious career. And I'm quite envious of this one, where you spent a day with Jamie Oliver and 10 days with Gordon Ramsay in London and a trip to Thomas Keller at French Laundry. So I think I could just go on, but I would prefer that Chef, describes everything himself. Let me also add that he's an author of 5 books, which are prescribed textbooks in culinary schools in India, Kenya, and Malaysia. That's a whole lot of achievements. So, Chef Bali, I would come straight to you. How does it feel looking back?
I think when I look back over my career, I mean, when I hear you speak, probably it sounds that I have achieved so much. But I think, there's miles to go before I sleep. And I think that's what I relate my, chef profession to a medical profession. Where you have to constantly keep upgrading yourself. You keep reading about things. New technologies come in every now and then. New trends come in every now and then. New equipments come every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's always important to be on the cutting edge of stuff. Otherwise, very soon you'll be left behind, struggling with, what you're doing traditionally. Though traditions are very important, but I always talk to my chefs, my students, and tell them that don't have an enriching 10 years of experience. Don't have that 1 year of experience which has been repeated 10 times of your 10 years of your life. So that is what I believe in.
I think you truly embody that. And in fact, I was reading about you and I came to know you originally wanted to be a neurosurgeon.
Yes.
So tell us about that. You wanted to be
I think
a neurosurgeon and then you ended up...
I landed up into engineering as well. And I did 1 year of engineering before I joined hotels. And trust me, to join hotels was not my passion for food or being a chef. Mm-hmm. That come much later in because, people of my generation, they haven't chosen the profession has chosen us. And I was lucky that kitchen chose me.
Yes.
But I really went to Calcutta because I belong to Kashmir, and those were the troublesome times in the valleys. I'm talking about 89, 90.
Yes.
And I gave exams and I got selected into hotel management, and I thought, okay, I don't have to do too much, wash a couple of utensils, make a couple of dishes, and I'll have all the time in my life to study for my medical ventures. But slowly, I think this industry just grew on me.
I think that was the same for me also. I'm also close to your batch only, but from IHM Pusa.
Yeah, I think, for most of us,
yes.
In those era, it was 2 conventional routes, either engineer or a doctor.
Yeah. That is what
and
parents
my father was
wanted,
an army.
But anything other than that, we found exciting, So that's good. So, Chef, tell us a little bit about your childhood years in Baramulla. Because I remember that dinner. I met Chef once at dinner at Trident where this Kashmiri promotion was going on. And that dinner is so distinct because every dish was coming with an anecdote. And it was such an enriching experience just to have that dinner with Chef Bali with other bloggers in Hyderabad. So tell us, what were the early impressions? And probably, I'm sure you loved food right from the beginning. So tell us.
Yeah. So growing up in Kashmir, so I have always visited Kashmir in 2 months every year because my father was in army, and we would,
Okay.
travel lock, stock, barrel every 3 years. But we would come back to Kashmir for our holidays. And I think those were the 2 months I really looked forward to coming back to Kashmir. And this was in May, June, and July, sometimes, 3 months as well.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think it was an incredible time because like I was there in May when the cherry blossoms were just coming up, and
Wow.
then the cherries happened, and then the apricots came in, and then the peaches came in, and the sour cherries from the trees came in. There were raspberry growing on the bunch, on branches on the side. So it was very fascinating as a child, when you're growing up with such kind of fruits and different vegetables. And also, those were the times when the men cook, usually in weddings, etc. The men of the village would get together and cook up a banquets and a feast. The women of the folk will, cook at homes every day. But it was the men who got together to cook for large banquets. And I was always fascinated because they were never trained chefs. They were just people of village who were very famous in cooking. And one was famous in making Rogan Josh, one was famous in making damalu, so all got together to create a meal, and which was spectacular. And I always, was very intrigued by how they made up a made up kitchen outside with tents and bricks and, logs of wood and big utensils. And but I still really hadn't thought still in my mind, that I'll become a chef one day. But I think growing around with ingredients, food, where people live in joint families, and you're from a village in Kashmir where
Yeah.
ingredients are just right at your feet. And I would see as a child, I still remember the person used to come with a tub on his head, and he used to give us fresh trout. People used to buy fresh trout,
Wow.
which was farmed in. Yeah, so those kind of ingredients, today when I see, I say, oh my God, I've lost my childhood. Where those magical ingredients, I could have asked more questions and seen stuff, which doesn't happen today. Like in Kashmir, in a normal market, you would have to go to a place to buy a trout. Nobody comes to your home now in a village with a pot on his head which contains fresh trout.
It has
um,
changed.
it's changed. And when I actually, after doing my hotel management, once when I back to Kashmir, I saw Kashmir in a new way altogether, because I saw raspberries for the first time, like, oh, they're edible. Because when I was eating, my cousins told me, oh, don't even touch them, they're poisonous. And I
Okay.
said, no, they're raspberries. So that is the kind of ignorance that people had. And then I rediscovered many of the ingredients, like rose hip buds,
Oh, yes.
black currants, blackberries, sea buckthorn. Things which Kashmiris even haven't heard of it, because it's not used nowadays in the normal culinary
Actually, I
stuff.
think
Yeah,
the only thing which has become famous is saffron and Gucci, probably.
correct.
For it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, asparagus grows wild in Kashmir. It's called shatwar in Hindi. But Kashmir at one point in the time was the largest grower of great asparagus.
Excellent. So that's so nice to know. Now, what other cuisines you love the most? Any, because you traveled all over the world, so I'm sure you have many influences. What are even from your travels, what were the best experiences, meal experiences, memorable for you?
So I think every place has its own unique memories, associated with food. But I think I personally like um, Italian, Mediterranean, apart from Indian. So Indian obviously is my favorite. And now, researching about the traditional regional dishes,
Yeah.
the local dishes, the local lost ingredients, India is full of diverse cultures. But if I particularly like to cook on a leisure thing, probably Italian, Mediterranean is one of my favorites meal to cook, because it's very artistic, very colorful, and the role is about ingredients and not so much of a chef. You play a very, very less role when it comes to cooking Italian food,
Yes,
because
it is the ingredients, but
the Italians believe that God gives you great ingredients. You only have to put them together. to
Oh,
make them look, tasty and beautiful.
quite, quite
But
right.
personally, if you ask me, like eating,
Mhm.
I would anyway prefer Japanese and Thai food if I have to go out to eat, for
Oh,
example.
that's nice.
So yeah, but I think one of the most memorable meals I've had really is when I was training at French Laundry for 15 days. And one of the days, the sous chefs got together and gave me an experience of a 7 course degustation menu. Sitting on they laid a table actually just behind the kitchen into the park, which overlooked the garden.
Oh,
And, it was completely laid out with beautiful glassware and everything. And, it was spectacular because like I was the guest who was having an outdoor dining in the beautiful weather
wow,
in the farm, and I was really taken care of. So I think that is one of the most memorable meals I've had.
great. So now that your role as a head of learning and development at OCLD, how is the interaction with young budding chefs? And I mean, have you seen any change over the years in the kind of students you have?
Oh, yes, a big change. And I think staying with the young people and the young mind keeps you always energized and young.
Yes.
Because, you learn, I teach them, of course, from my experience and stuff, but it's incredible the amount I learn back from them because, they all come with their new thought processes, sometimes, no experiences. And the worst is for people like me who have had so much years of experience that sometimes your own experiences can hinder in creativity because you have been doing something for n number of years, and now to completely change a thing you think twice because you're so comfortable doing it. But I think when the youngsters come up with a crazy idea and we are in a setup like OCLD where we ask them that it's your kitchen laboratory, so practice. So
Mhm.
we definitely come up with new products, new things. It's an emerging learning, I would say. The learning is redefined. Every day we learn something new.
All right.
So
I hope
yeah,
to
it's
see with your
incredible.
cup of tea.
Yes,
I
I'm
forgot
having
to ask you.
my cup
What
of
kind
tea.
of tea do you like?
So I'm from Kashmir. I really like kahwa and noon chai. Noon chai is one of my favorite actually.
Okay,
So
there
noon
is a
chai is
pink
this
one?
salty tea. It's a
Okay,
pink one, yes.
yes.
I can't turn my cup around, but yes, it's a pink one.
Oh. So the
So,
fragrance must be nice, and pink is such a
y-
pleasing color. So,
yeah, and it's salty. It's like having a rice soup or something.
oh, nice. I'll try it next time. Whenever I visit a Kashmiri restaurant. So going
Definitely.
back to OCLD, we used to hear that OCLD, I mean, there the students unlearn what they learn in catering colleges and learn to do things differently. So you've given some idea, but I mean, there's this aura about OCLD, So what really happens there? If you could give us a little clue. How do you turn out such talent year after year?
You know, I think it's top driven. It's really driven Oberoi himself. Who is a stickler. So I mean, when his whole experience, and as a company, I think we just breathe hotels.
Mhm.
We do not have any other business. We are into business of hospitality.
True.
And Mr. Oberoi, with years of experience, has stayed in the best of the hotels and have been into the hospitality business for last 90 years of his life, I would say.
Mhm.
There is hardly a thing that goes amiss. We will miss so many things even today, but he's such a sharp observer that he will observe things in any of the department, whether be it kitchen, front office. So that naturally keeps us all on our toes. And we have very, strong value system in our company, which is called the dharma. So we are led by the dharma, which talks about, and this dharma is made by the people. So it
Okay.
talks about putting yourself last and the customer first, going that extra mile, anticipating guest needs. So there are many things, that are the whole hospitality industry of ours, Oberoi Hotels
Yeah, I
leads.
feel that distinct
Yeah,
difference when you go to a Oberoi hotel, the kind of
yeah.
attention to detail is really something.
So
Although,
when it's top driven and you do it,
Mhm.
and when you do it right for the first time and every time, it becomes your second nature. So I think that's what we tell our students when they come in. So, a lot of people also feel that, whatever you've learned in catering colleges, you probably have to unlearn everything and relearn things at OCLD. I would slightly disagree there. I wouldn't say unlearn, relearn, but yes, if you've learned to make a soup in one way in a
Mhm.
catering college, which is your foundation, building block, and, we all have come from catering colleges. So I respect that. But
Yes.
here we can teach you 10 other ways of how to do that soup and how each soup can react differently. I'll give you an example of croissant. So maybe the same croissant recipe will not work in Calcutta and Shimla because of the humidity in the atmosphere, because of the height there, because of the humid climate where the butter melts here and the butter stays more stable. So some recipes have to be even altered for
Sweet.
the locations that you're in.
Wow. So that
So
is the
OCLD,
kind
I
of
think, just teaches you more ways of looking at things.
okay. So can love of cooking be taught or is it natural?
So I think it's like marriage. You
Okay.
know, you can you can fall in love when it's a love marriage. You can fall in love when it's an arranged marriage.
Yes.
Uh, so a lot of people, when cooking is forced upon them, and this happens with a lot of home, housewives. Sadly, in India, where the cooking is, just thrusted
Delegated
upon them.
only to women. Yeah.
But
Most,
I have seen a lot of people who have started enjoying cooking after a few years of their life. So,
yeah.
of course, it is, I think, one is you're innately passionate about something, but this skill is definitely something that can be learned. And, it's very creative because it's a mix of art and a science together. I wouldn't say that cooking is all only about artistic things, but I think it's about science.
Yes, absolutely. So now let's talk about Kashmiri cuisine, where it all began. I personally love it. I think it is one of the finest cuisines, at
Mhm.
least in India, if not the world. So, any traditional dishes you have revived in hotel menus over the years, and what excites you today about this cuisine?
I think Kashmiri cuisine again is something that it's very well known to the people in Kashmir.
Mm.
But when we talk outside of the Kashmir, people always reminiscent about Kashmiri food as Wazwan,
Yes.
which talks about Gushtaba, the Rogan Josh, and so a normal homemaker or a housewife doesn't make Gushtabas on a daily basis at home. It's a very specialized
Yeah,
Wazwan
and you
fare
need
where
all those equipment.
correct. And there are skilled people, and people are looking forward to having Wazwans, even in the families when the wedding is on. But one must also understand that Kashmir also has, a Sikh community which
Yes.
stays in Kashmir and
Yes.
also has a Pandit community. So even though the Pandits are non-vegetarian, means they eat meat, but they will have it with no onion, no garlic. You know,
Okay.
but again, I was very intrigued with that fact, and I came to know that it's a survival of the fittest because in come October, November, December, January, February, March, 6 to 7 months of the year, you will not have any vegetables, to cook with because it snows and the vegetables don't grow. So as a result, they have to do back upon meat and other proteins, for their cooking.
Or
So
they
that is
dry
the
the
even
vegetables.
reason that even Pandits cook. Yeah, even drying vegetables. Yeah, so drying of vegetables is there where you dry the brinjals and the sun-dried tomatoes. So that is an amazing thing. And I've grown up as a child. If we ever were to go in August, September to Kashmir, for attending a marriage, we would see all these houses where the chilies are on the thread.
Yes.
Somebody is drying, the brinjals for the winters and great stuff basically. So I think with the Kashmiri food, we have to be more open to see what is the local cuisine of Kashmir like. What do we eat on a daily basis? And of course, with me doing food promotions in our hotels, I think very new things, a lot of new things have been added, and a lot of existing dishes have been upgraded because a Rogan Josh that we make mostly in our hotels is not a real Rogan Josh. It's
Yes.
more like a Punjabi lamb curry with a flavor of soft, maybe, or sometimes saffron added. But a real
But there's
Rogan
a lot
Josh is just, yeah,
confusion, ambiguity about Rogan Josh still. If you could tell us how what
because
is the original.
the original one really, and all this cuisine actually started when Emperor Jahangir went to Kashmir. So when
Okay.
he loved art and culture and food. So all that food which is there is all dum cooked.
Okay.
So rarely you will have dishes where you start with oil and you bhuno the fried onions and you bhuno the tomatoes. No, in
That's
many dishes even tomato is not a part of Kashmiri cuisine.
True.
So everything is just mixed over together and cooked on slow dum. So that kind of cuisine, from Emperor Jahangir, when he went there around in 1600s, and in 1600s we didn't even have chilies coming into our country. Chilies only came in 1800, or 1700 when Vasco da Gama brought chilies to our country. We used to have a lot of black pepper. So the color really of the color of the Rogan Josh used to come from saffron.
Okay.
So saffron and a flower called moval, which is called the coxcomb flower in English.
Yes.
So those were essentially the coloring agents for Rogan Josh. A lot of people feel that Ratan Jot is used in cooking in Rogan Josh. I
Yeah.
would tell all my listeners and viewers, no, Rogan Josh is a complete no-no in Kashmiri cuisine because it's carcinogenic in nature and
Ratan.
it is used for dyeing clothes, etc. Ratan Jot, yeah.
Yes. Okay. That's quite a
But
revelation.
even in colleges, we have read about Ratan Jot as, yeah, it is. But on the other hand, organically we use moval, which is the coxcomb flower, which is dried in the sunshade, and when you boil it with water, it turns the water into blood red in color. So that is what is used for making then the Wazwan dishes. So a lot of new dishes have been introduced, like a Kashmiri rajma done in a particular way. And selecting the real rajma. I've seen many banquets put up Kashmiri rajma by using chitra rajma or the long rajma and call it Kashmiri rajma as a preparation. So Kashmiri rajma is not a preparation. It is the rajma itself that comes from Bhadrwa
Small
near
one.
Jammu.
Small
It's
and
small. It's
red.
most small, bright red,
Red.
and very starchy.
Yeah. Even
So yeah,
I'm quite particular about my Kashmiri food. So I'm also, argued with people on this. And I try to
yeah,
keep a
and
little
I think one of the most important ingredient in Kashmir is its Kashmiri red chili. You can never substitute the degi mirch, or many brands are serving Kashmiri chili powder, which is not real Kashmiri chili powder. So the real Kashmiri chili powder has a flavor of its own, and it is dark red in color. And just one or two teaspoons make the entire dish so blood red in color. It's incredible. And even if you put 3-4 spoons, you won't find the food very spicy. So Kashmiri chili is not spicy.
Okay.
Also in the hotel, I see a lot of people using that large chili called Resham Patti, which they soak and make a chili paste and call it a Kashmiri chili. So again, Kashmiri chili is not like that. Kashmiri chili is really different.
I think those are shortcuts sometimes people do.
Yeah.
Another
Yeah.
thing that I really find fascinating is how vegetarian menus have evolved in most hotels, because earlier we used to have very limited choice. But how do you bring in innovation and creativity in these kind of menus?
So actually, our country, 80% of our food is vegetarian. I think this question is more suitable for a foreigner, maybe European.
Hmm.
Probably if we ask Daniel Home, who has turned his entire restaurant into vegan restaurant,
Yes.
I think maybe Chef Daniel Home will look back to India to say, listen, guys, give me more ideas.
Yeah, but in
No jokes apart.
restaurants, we used to have paneer and long time back, but now I see a lot of variety. So that
Yeah,
I
of
think we
course.
have really progressed.
Yeah, I think because people have also, the vegetarian clan has come up, which want to experiment and they want to, go away from paneer and the traditional malai koftas.
Okay.
And also the lockdown definitely has taught us that there are so many local ingredients available in our country which are unexplored. One of the examples is karonda, for example, which is also called cranberry in English. There can be amazing dishes that you can make with karonda.
Okay.
A lot of people use it up in pickles, but you can make dahi wale karonde.
Mhm.
So such amazing stuff.
Great. Now, coming to the current environment and what the world is going through, how do you see the hotel industry and especially restaurants evolving after the pandemic?
So I think even if you see when there is a lockdown for 2 months, and Delhi particularly has gone through very troublesome time in last 3 months. But
Yeah.
today, when you see lockdown open, you still can see streets full of people. So people will not stop traveling. People will not stop going to restaurants. So we are looking at things coming back, and what's happening good for our industry as well is that earlier we never used to have so much of local clientele, but I think now we have also started to tap the domestic market. We are more open to the local traveler coming in. into our places, and we are also suiting our menus according to their needs. So I think it's only working well for all of us.
Great. Now, moving to a little bit about your personal front, because I find you such a fascinating person. You're so talented. I mean, one day suddenly I see you singing, and then you're playing the flute. You know multiple languages. So, how do you find time for everything?
So listen, I'm very lucky to be working at Oberoi Center of Learning and Development. And one of the things definitely is that, I have a 5-day week. So the Saturday, Sunday is really to myself, unless I'm traveling, for food promotions in our hotels. And so in which case I don't mind working 7 days a week and 18 hours a day. But yes, I mean, we do work 12, 13 hours every day. But I think that Saturday, Sundays to us. And I think, I'm less distracted. So even if you open up my WhatsApp, there'll be 1,100 messages on my WhatsApp. So I'm not a person who's, addicted to telephone or television. And I think if you hold your phone and if you see the screen time that you spend, on an average, a person would spend 4 to 5 hours on the phone. On an average, I'm talking about. Now that 4 to 5 hours, I do other stuff in my life. I I play flute. I go for cycling early morning.
Oh,
So I
yes.
wake up at 5 and
About that.
leave home at 5:30, and I cycle and come back by 7:30.
So, how did
The flute
cycling
happens
happen?
so cycling, of course, happened with my love for food, and and then me going on to the 3 figures on a weighing scale, and so I have to be
Okay.
careful,
Okay.
conscious to enjoy food all my life. I think I tried everything, exercise, gymming, didn't work, but I think cycling was an addiction.
Okay.
That is one sport I think that was my calling. And so when I was in Hyderabad, I used to cycle from Trident, Hyderabad to Sikandrabad and back.
Oh,
And people used to, look with eyes wide open. But I think it's only 50 kilometers both ways.
50
You know?
kilometers is not a joke. But I mean, I believe you've done many, many kilometers. So I wanted to ask you, do you have any particular habits that you adhere to, like 7 habits of effective people, maybe for the young chefs who are coming up, how to balance their time? Because at
you
least in
know,
hotels, they don't get time for any kind of
yeah.
personal growth.
Okay. To tell you honestly, I would have been probably very happy if I really had those 7 effective habits. Uh, I don't have something written down, but I firmly believe, and what I follow is that whatever you enter it with whole heart or don't do it, you know. So if I take up something which I will like, I will not give up. I will do it till the end. So even if when I've started playing flute now, I go to one of the Gurujis who's the Shishya of Pandit Ravi Shankar. So I'm learning the classical Indian flute from the Guru Shishya Parampara style of thing. And
Excellent.
my dream really is to play one day in the Albert Hall. Maybe it's after 10 years, 12 years, I don't know. But I want to have my first concert in chef uniform for all my chefs after 4 years, maybe, and play the Indian classical ragas.
Great.
So yes, so what you need to do is set up little small dreams for you and work towards achieving those dreams. I think discipline is one of the key things, because if you're not disciplined about something, then I don't think you will be able to do what you want to in your life. Second thing, even when you're locked up at home, I still get up in the morning and do my timetable.
Okay. Wow.
So I say 9 to 11, I'm going to do this. 11 to 1, I have a meeting. 1 to 2, I'll have a lunch break. 2 to 3, I will do this. So I make my short term goal plans for this thing. So
So
today I
you're
had a meeting almost till 6 o'clock. Yeah. So I had a meeting till 6, which could have been extended. So I asked you if you can do our thing at 6:30. 7:30 to 8:30, I will practice my flute again.
okay.
So that's
I
how
hope you
it
play
goes.
a little bit for us later.
Yeah, why not? Anytime.
So, one more question I wanted to ask you, although I had not discussed that. Looking back, all the Oberoi hotels, which is your favorite experience? Because I love the right from the Oberoi Delhi. I'm from Taj, but even as a reward, sometimes we were told that if you achieve this, we'll take you for a dinner to La Rochelle. Or that time, you had Taipan.
Yeah,
So it had
yeah.
that aura. Tell us about
Really.
your favorite Oberoi hotel.
That's a very difficult question to tell you honestly, because I think each one of our hotel is unique in its own way. Um uh, but if you ask me in terms of what gives me happiness when I walk into just the premise of the hotel is the Oberoi Villas.
Mm.
I think it's grandeur,
Okay.
it's architectural built up, its location near Lake Pichola. The moment you walk in, there's a big sun.
Mm.
There's a marble inlay work with blue waters at the backdrop. It's incredible, and I think the whole it looks like a palace of Aladdin from the fairy tales. So I think in architecturally, that is one of my favorite hotels. I love the Oberoi New Delhi because that is where I started my career with. So I'm nostalgic about that hotel. That was my first posting as a pastry chef,
Yes.
and I worked in that kitchen, so I know all the back areas and all the places.
Great. So
Vannevillas is again unique because of the tents and wildlife, and so each hotel of ours is really unique.
they are on my bucket list for sure. The newer
Yeah,
properties.
they're amazing
Some of the
hotels.
older ones I've seen. So, Chef, now I
Yeah.
have a rapid fire round for you.
Hmm.
Let's start. Some quick questions. Um, your favorite dish?
I think aloo jeera, yellow dal, and chawal with a little bit of cow ghee.
Oh, that's
I
very
can eat that every day.
nice. Your a chef you have who has inspired you the most?
So I think many people all along my life. But if you ask me about chefs, I think I was very inspired always, and I'm still inspired by Chef Manjeet Gill, who's the ex-corporate chef of ITC Hotels.
Yes.
And sheer due to his humility, his knowledge, his passion for Indian food, whenever I talk to him, I always tell him, कि, "Chef, 2 पाव खून बढ़ जाता है आपसे बात करके." So that is the kind of feeling that I get.
He's wonderful. Your favorite street food?
I think I like Raj Kachori, the big one that filled
Okay.
with yogurt, etc. I really like that.
Okay. One food item you can never have.
I think canned bamboo shoots, the traditional one that come from Thailand.
Yes.
Somehow the smell of that ink called shell park.
Even I.
So I really don't want to eat that. Another thing I detest eating is, once I was in Taiwan, and it was very, then the night market is very famous for snake meat, you know so they actually would take the snake and rip it off and collect the blood, and people actually drank the raw blood because it's the biggest aphrodisiac. I think that completely put me off, and I think I will never want to try snake blood or snake meat because just that thought comes into my mind and it was not pleasant.
Sure. Your favorite holiday destination?
Cancun,
Okay. Great.
that's a place in Mexico. It's an incredible place. I've been there once, but I wish to go there again. People who have not heard about Cancun, please type Cancun on Google and just see the images. I think it's one of the most incredible places in the world to visit.
Okay, we'll do that. Also, your favorite restaurant? You can take one from Oberoi's and one otherwise.
So I really used to love Taipan, of TOND. Uh, but now the Taipan has converted into Baochuan, and it is still one of my favorite. It offers some amazing brunch. But if I have to go to any other particular restaurant, I would. Uh, it would be more decided by the family, if you ask me, because what they want to have. So things like Sagar Ratna probably
Mm.
is a very comforting go-to place for dosas and stuff like that.
Okay. Now, your favorite singer and song, and you have to tell me a song that you romanced your wife with.
So my wife is kind of very upset with my singing and my song, because all my songs are like those blues and sad songs. But yes, my one of my favorite singers really is Hemant Kumar and Mukesh Kumar and Mukesh. And my favorite song, I think it's really difficult question, because I have, when I have my playlist on my phone, it
Mhm.
has Spanish songs, it has old Hindi songs, even from 1950s or 1960s. It
And
even
quite
have new
a
songs.
linguist also. I mean, you speak how many languages?
9 languages.
9 languages. Wow.
So yeah, but yeah, I love all kind of songs, and whether they're from new, like even Kabira,
Mhm.
Manja,
So, what are you
to
singing for
old
us?
ones. Um,
Or you could play the flute for us.
yeah, I can do that.
Great.
So this is actually the time for a rag called Shiv Ranjini,
All right.
and I have again one of my favorite songs, which is from that rag. So I will not tell you what song is it. It is. I'll play, and maybe
I'll guess.
you'll
I'm
guess
also
what
into
song.
music and karaoke.
Okay, great. So I do that as well. I sing karaoke. Otherwise, I'm a typical bathroom singer. But I sing well on karaoke. So I use an app called Smule.
Yes, I tried Smule also. Now I've been singing on Star Maker, and it made
Okay.
me survive the lockdown with no regrets, because I would be very busy every day singing.
So that's a 30-inch flute,
Wow.
and it's called bansuri in Hindi, and it is of a scale called E scale.
Okay.
1 minute.
Beautiful. Of course, it is Jaane Kahan Gaye Wo Din
Correct. That's what it is.
from Mera Naam Joker. Beautiful.
Correct.
You played it very well, Chef.
Thank you.
So great, Chef. It's been wonderful talking to you, and I think you are an inspiration for a whole lot of young aspirants who are coming to the hotel industry, especially kitchens. Uh, and you essay a career well started and done full justice to every role you have played. So I
Thank you.
salute all that you've done. Thank you so much, Chef, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.